said, today we have a treat. We have an individual that's an international student. I call him Z, but he's going to introduce himself, and we're going to go ahead and get into some questions as far as being an international student, coming to the United States, and ultimately playing basketball in college. Z?
So my name is Zydrunas, Jurgutis. Okay, I was a point guard. I'm 6 foot. I'm from Lithuania. I came here in United States in 2015 to play basketball.
Yeah, being able to share his story is going to help a lot of international students because, again, I can't give you any advice that I haven't gone through myself. So I'll make sure I highlight those individuals that can kind of tell their own story. First of all, how did you even get the opportunity to come to the States? Like, how did you get recruited? Because there's a lot of them out there that are saying that, I want to come play in college, but, I live in whatever country. How do I get over there? So what kind of advice would you give them? And kind of talk to us about how you made that happen.
Well, for me personally, fortunately enough, I had a coach that gone through the school here in the United States, and he was well established in terms of connections here. So, and he's been helping people from Lithuania to come to the United States for a while. So, for me, it wasn't.
Let me say something. I'm sorry. Don't lose your train of thought. But I'll put out a video about this as far as there's a lot of student athletes that feel like all they have to do is send out a highlight tape. And my mindset is more leaning on what you just said. Like, you had to connect as far as your coach who had been there, done that, who had some connections, it sounds like.
Yes.
And it seems like that will give you more leverage than just sending out blind copies of highlights to two different coaches. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Word of mouth actually is the best thing possible. No one, just by watching the tape, I don't think coaches will have a clear picture of you and what type of person you are. And a lot of times it's not about just the game. Also, they recruit the character.
Woo! You take the words out of my mouth. I feel like we talked about this beforehand, see? I take the words out of my mouth. I'm sorry, I cut you off. That's good. That is good. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, so exactly, they recruit the character. And when I had my first interview with Coach Helgas, we weren't talking about basketball at all. It was all about what you do, what is your mindset, what are your goals, how you see yourself in a few years, where you want to go, where you want to play, and stuff like that. And he asked my question as well, how I'm doing in terms of school back home. So these were very important considerations for him. And basketball, we never actually talked about basketball, to be honest. Obviously, I'm sure he watched the tapes, but we directly, we never talked about it.
Sure. I just think so many people put too much value on that, and now it's like a mixtape culture where people just think because, I sent out this mixtape with this highlight, and you're going to want me. My thing is, I can have Stretch do a doggone highlight video and have him make all the shots. You know what I'm saying? But again, that says nothing about his character at all. That says nothing about him as a person. It really doesn't say about the people that he's actually playing against either. So I'm glad you hit that as well, because your coaches, whomever you play for, will be a resource for you. And coaching is such a small fraternity/sorority that they know other people as well that may be places that you want to play. So even if you don't like your coach, it will behoove you to make sure that you're on at least speaking terms so you can take advantage of some opportunities moving forward. You only hurt yourself if you just want to pout on the end of the bench and not utilize that resource. I'm glad you said that.
It's really important to have someone to vouch for you, to vouch your character especially. So because no one can really check it before they actually meet you. And for me, it was really difficult to come visit here, just for a visit basically to the United States. It's a little bit different when people come from here.
Sure.
But for me, I didn't have an opportunity to come here, visit, and spend some time with my coach. So it was really a big kind of
a leap of faith, man.
Exactly, yeah. And so I was really fortunate enough to have a person that could vouch for me and my character.
Yeah, that's crazy because in real estate they say don't purchase a property unless you actually get to see it a lot of times.
Yeah,
you know what
exactly.
I mean? Like, that's a risk. So for you to be able to kind of step out on faith and say, I'm going to go for it. Were there people back home that thought you were crazy? Maybe not your coach, but like parents, cousins, siblings, friends of the family. Did they think you were crazy by saying, I'm going to go to a place I've never been to before? So you had never been to America beforehand?
No, I have not.
That's incredible.
Well, they were super supportive actually about that idea to go there. But obviously, my parents, for example, they were scared a little bit. So But at the same time, they wanted me to look for opportunities, and they knew that here I had to choose between the school and basketball, and over there I wouldn't have. So that was a big motivating point, and so no one really told me that I was crazy. Actually, a lot of people were supportive about that. When you think about it, you're going somewhere that you don't really know the people, you don't really know where you're going as well. You just know the location technically, but there's no plan back. You can't really come back if you don't like it. You know, it doesn't work that way. So.
And to add an even more level of pressure for you, we spoke about this before, but you weren't fluent with English speaking like as soon as you got over here, right?
Correct.
So how was that as far as, okay, now you've taken this leap, you've gotten to a college, and you have to take these college classes, and they're expecting you to perform on a college level with your peers who were born in this country, who know the language. How did you stay up to speed with those individuals when you're still learning the English language?
Well, the very important thing was my teammates and my coach. They were very supportive because like I said, I wasn't very fluent with English, and it was really hard to understand what the coach was saying, what the teammates were saying, and a lot of times people don't want to really talk to you if you don't understand. They don't want to explain you 5 times whatever they're saying, you know, and it becomes pretty obvious after a while, because at first you're new, everyone knows that, but after a while, you know, they're not gonna just keep explaining everything to you. So, but fortunately enough, like my coach was very patient with me, and he kept saying that everything is all right. You know, you don't understand. We understand that you're new. So he kept helping me, and the teammates followed his lead actually, and everything turned out to be well. But for people who are coming here, my biggest advice would be just to hang out with your teammates. I did a mistake that I wasn't that social because I was kind of afraid of that specific thing that I don't understand, I don't know what to say, and I don't know how to express myself.
Yeah.
But sooner you start talking with your peers and engaging in conversations, faster you're gonna overcome that barrier, basically. So I would strongly encourage people coming in here, go talk to as much people as possible and make as many connections as possible from the very beginning.
How's the game different? Like, was the game more physical where you're from? Is it more physical here? Was it less fast or more fast? Or how that transition as far as basketball concerned?
Okay, so yeah, the game is pretty different, and the main thing, it comes with how we play. It was more like set plays as opposed to individual playing. Also, the very big difference was in the practice. Here, because it's so connected with the school, we were able to practice twice, actually. Mm-hmm. Back home, you don't really practice twice unless you're in the professional league playing. So it was a little bit different. Also, back home, I never had to wake up at 5 a.m. or 4 a.m. and actually go to the workouts, so it was pretty new and pretty rough experience. But at the same time, it was pretty good because I needed to see what people are doing in order to get to their level.
Do you feel like you identified yourself as being a basketball player? Like if someone were to ask you something, like if it was like, hey, sum up Z in, I don't know, 5 words or less, would basketball be that for you? Do you feel like you heavily identified yourself as a basketball player?
Yeah, absolutely. I would spend a lot of time in the gym, and not only in the gym, like my life kind of revolved around basketball. Every day you go on those basketball websites, reading. All my friends also read the same stuff, so whenever we meet, we discuss basketball, talk about different players who are better. So kind of my life revolved around it, so a lot of people knew me as this guy is into basketball. And I didn't really identify myself as a very good student from the very early days. So I would say that a lot of people would just identify myself as a basketball player.
Early days meaning what? Like when you were back in Lithuania?
Correct.
Okay, so you identified yourself with basketball. So what was the plan then? Like the plan was to come here, go to college, play basketball, to do what?
To go professionally, to be a professional basketball player, effectively. And I didn't really think about school. School was just as a backup plan.
Okay.
So my whole whole concentration was on getting better and getting connections and moving on to becoming a professional basketball player. I didn't dream a lot about NBA, but I was pretty positive that I could play overseas in Europe somewhere and make a living over there.
Yeah. I think that if people are being honest, a lot of us have that same hope, ambition, and dream. I know myself, I failed the 6th grade, failed the 8th grade, special education classes, but I felt like basketball was going to be around a reason I could make my family proud and go to college and make some money doing it. But it didn't work out that way. For whatever reason, life happened. And I know life happened to you as well as it relates to injury that you had in college. Can you talk to us a little bit about the injury that you had?
Yes, so I had...
And how that changed your perspective?
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So first, I had surgery before I came into the United States, but I thought I left it behind. I felt pretty good.
What kind of surgery?
Exactly the same surgery on my right knee.
Okay.
So I came in here and I felt pretty good, but then after a few years, my kind of knee started feeling bad and I kept feeling pain.
Mm-hmm.
So talked to my coach and we decided that I needed to do a surgery. So I did a surgery again, and after that surgery, I couldn't come back because I kept feeling pain and I had to take painkillers every day.
Mm.
And at some point I was like, it's not enjoying anymore. I'm not improving, I'm not getting better, I'm just fighting through the pain. And that's when I decided that I need to do something, that I need to change the direction of my life. And talked to coach, and
was
he
that
helped
tough
me.
for you?
Absolutely, it was one of the hardest conversations that I actually had in my life. To come to a coach, first of all, he helped me a lot by bringing here, by taking care of me, and for me just to come in and say, "Hey, I quit." It was a pretty tough decision to make, and I didn't know how he's gonna respond to that. So it was pretty. I was pretty nervous before the conversation, and I'm glad it turned out the way it did, but it was one of the toughest conversations I had in my life.
So give us some advice as far as having that tough conversation. I know a lot of people, when they're faced with some tough situations, they just avoid it altogether, and you're going in and you're going to talk to your coach, and your coach has been doing this. Sometimes these coaches have been doing this longer than you've been alive. So to go into the lion's den, if you will, and have to have that conversation, what kind of tips can you give us to have that conversation and just kind of be, confident in our conversation?
Right. So first of all of that starts from the very beginning. And what I mean by that is you got to establish the relationship to your coach.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever, not only coach, but whoever you're dealing with, you got to establish a relationship from the very beginning. And because I had that type of relationship, I find some courage in myself to actually go and tell him about the challenges that I'm facing. And I know that I wouldn't have gone it if I didn't have that type of relationship. So I still had faith in him that I can actually talk to him and tell him my troubles, basically. So this comes again to the same thing. It's like you always want to make sure that you're not burning bridges. You're not, if your coach makes you sad, whatever, just suck it up. It's he's your coach or she, and at some point you may have to deal with the same situation that I dealt with. So you want to make sure that you work on those relationships and you develop them.
Mm-hmm. So when did that switch flip for you? Was it you hurt yourself, or you said, okay, wait a minute, I need to start taking academics seriously now? Or had you already been doing that before the injury?
Well, I was a good student here from the very beginning. And
what's a good student? Like, what does that look like for you? Because my idea of a good student for me is, I don't want to tell you how low my bar is, but it's funny. Some people think a good student is straight A's and B's, but when I was in college, my idea of a good student is passing. Okay, so tell us a little bit about what's your idea of a good student before the injury.
Yeah, so I had 3.98 GPA.
See, that's what I'm talking about. That's a great student. That's not a good student. That's a great student.
Yeah, so like I said, I was a pretty good student, and not because I wanted to actually study. I hated every moment, but at the same time, I knew that I needed it. And the even more important thing was, back in Lithuania, I wasn't really a good student, and my parents, they're not well off, let's put it that way. So they gone through lengths to actually help me to come to the United States, and in terms of coming up with the money. So I kind of felt responsible, and I kind of felt that it's my responsibility to come here and don't waste that money to actually study, be a good student. But as I mentioned before, I didn't want to study. I wasn't even focused on moving that route. I always thought that I'm going to be a basketball player. I just studied because of that sense of responsibility that I had.
Now you said a 3-point what now?
98.
Okay, and that was before the injury.
Correct.
Come on, man. What the heck? Okay, so English is not my first language. I'm here from Lithuania. How do I get a 3.98? Like, how does that even happen? Like, talk to us a little bit about your study regimen of how to even make this work. I mean, because before your injury, I mean, you got practice, you got road games, you got maybe a little bit of social life. I mean, how do you make that work and still hold yourself? Because listen, and this is not me trying to throw anybody under the bus, because I'm one of the people I'm about to name right now, okay? There are people on your doggone team who are from this country, okay, was born here, speak the language forward and backwards, and they didn't get a 3-point anything. And here you come from Lithuania, and you get a 3.98, and you just barely learned the language. Like, come on, man, give us a regimen of how we can obtain something like that.
Well, it's really just, my focus was on school and basketball. So basically, I would never go out anywhere. I would just focus on going to the gym, coming back from the gym, doing my work, going back to the gym, then coming back again, doing my work. So my life was kind of boring. I had to sacrifice a lot of social life for that. But again, I felt that responsibility that I need to do that. And also, what really helped me a lot to keep that GPA that high was good relationships with my professors. They really... Good relationship with professors, yeah.
Okay.
That's very, very important because you're gonna find yourself in difficult spots sometimes. And sometimes I would forget to do something and that would get a bad grade. My first grade, I think it was like 44, I got in my history exam, so I failed it completely. But
that's out of 100?
Out of 100, yes.
That's my kind of grades right there. We got past it though, but go ahead.
And so I was kind of lost. I didn't know what to do. And I went to the professor and I talked to her. Basically, I explained to her my situation. I explained how I prepared for it. And she gave me some tips, advice. Also, by the way, she volunteered to kind of tutor me, meet after the classes and go through material that I didn't understand. So we kind of developed that relationship, and I made a name in that class actually. So yeah, I think it's very, very important to have those relationships.
Did you try to establish that relationship before you got in hot water, or once you got into trouble?
Well, I got in the hot water immediately. that was the first test basically.
Yeah.
So the first quiz didn't mean a lot. I got like 50 something in the first quiz, but it didn't mean a lot. So because there are like 15 or whatever of them. But when I was like really in a hot mess, when I got that 44 in my exam, which there were only 3 of them, so it hurt, you know.
Okay. Gotcha. I mean, but that's such a small detail, but a big difference in the sense of a lot of people. You'd be amazed of how many people, you wouldn't because you're a college student about to graduate. Congratulations. But there's so many people that don't go talk to the professor at all. They have the office hours, they never go talk to the professor, and then you can't treat this thing like high school. I don't know how y'all did it in Lithuania, but like in high school and stateside, I know that a lot of people, they wait till like, the last couple weeks before graduation, like, hey, I need some extra credit. It's too late. You know what I'm saying? Yes. Like, it's too late. So for him to say, you know what, he reached out to those resources before it was too late, it's something that you should definitely add to your tool belt and use moving forward. Now, I get on my high horse about, not really a high horse, but I get on my soapbox, if you will, as far as picking a major. The idea that you have to pick a major is going to be something that's going to feed your family after you get done playing basketball, and not something that you're going to just keep you eligible, is huge. And this person sitting right next to me exemplifies just that same thing, in the sense of he could have easily majored in wash your hands with soap. He could have easily majored in something like blowing bubbles, but he picked something that was actually going to be helpful in the future. Talk to us about that major you chose and why you chose it.
My major was finance, and never really, like I said, thought about it. And I was in management, to be honest. And when I had made that transition, I was thinking about what to do. I went around and asked people around what they want, what they consider hard, basically. And a lot of them said that finance, they find finance pretty difficult, and they said that they don't understand it, and that you're not gonna get good grades if you go to finance. And it was kind of like my motivation and my drive to prove them that I can actually go into that industry and succeed, be good in that type of industry. So that was pretty much the main motivation. Another thing that really impacted that decision was my professor. The way that everyone looked at him, he was very exceptional, let's put it that way. The way he carried himself, he was very professional, he was very knowledgeable, and everyone acknowledged him, everyone kind of looked up to him. So he kind of was like my person that I was looking up to, so I wanted to be like him, and that's why I kind of mimicked his profession.
Talk to me. Listen, some of us may not know what finance is. We know this under the umbrella of business, but what is finance?
That's a good question. Yeah, it's a pretty broad topic, and there are different branches of finance. There's a personal finance when you deal with people's retirement, basically insurance, deal with their personal taxes, and there's like more corporate route, which I was taking and I am taking. So where you're dealing with institutions, where you're dealing more with investments and corporations, how they manage their cash, for example. So that's the branch that I'm into, and in that specific industry, investment industry, one of the big things is CFA is probably the gold standard.
What is that?
CFA is a Charter Financial Certification. CFA stands for Charter Financial Analyst. And this is like the gold standard for investment professionals. So I recognize that I need to have it in order to prove myself worthy. So I've been studying and preparing for that designation. But yeah, that's pretty much what finance would be in a nutshell.
Gotcha. See what I did there? I didn't know what CFA was, so I asked the question. Listen, I know it's a subtle thing, but a lot of times, you get in front of professors or whatnot, and they may say something that you don't understand. Don't feel bad that you don't know. Just ask the question. There's nothing wrong with asking the question. Now, for me, it begs another question. Now you have two languages that are setting as barriers. Number one, English, and now you're getting in this field of finance, and they have their own jargon, own terminology, own language. How difficult was it for you to navigate through that? And kind of talk to us about how you did that.
Well, yeah, it was an interesting story. When I came to finance, my first finance class, I came in and the professor immediately handed out the quiz. And the quiz was very basic, super basic. And what he said in front of the class, he was like, if you cannot do this exercise, you should drop this class immediately, because if you cannot understand this basic thing, you have nothing to do here. So I got this quiz, and I was doing it, and I found myself in a trouble, basically. I couldn't solve these problems.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked around, and I saw a lot of my peers doing it, discussing it, and they were pretty good at it, so they understood what was going on, and I was kind of lost. I didn't know what to do. So after that class, after I came out, I was like, maybe I really should quit, actually. And then I went to my other class with other professor, and he started talking. He was a little bit different style, so he never explained himself. He would just go and talk. And a lot of the stuff that he was talking, I could not understand at all. And after that, I really considered quitting, going to a different major. Because I just was so behind my peers. Everyone else seemed to understand everything that he was saying, and I was just so lost. So
were you lost because of the language barrier, or was it lost because of what they're talking about within, or was it both?
Well, language meaning financial jargon.
Okay.
Yeah, so I remember he said IOU. That was one of the phrases he used, and I kept thinking that IOU is some kind of acronym.
Sure.
And I kept looking for it actually online, so that's how tough it was for me to actually adapt to that jargon.
Yeah. But you stuck it out.
I did. Yeah, I actually stayed in finance, and again, one of the main reasons was like I never thought of these people as being smarter than I am. So
Even
I had
when you
to
were struggling.
Yes, exactly.
That's powerful right there.
Well,
That's powerful. Even though even when I'm on the ground struggling, scraping my knees, I don't feel like you're smarter than me. Even though like that's big.
that's why it's very important to surround yourself with very smart people, because if they're better, you kind of feel that you're not as good, and that kind of motivates you to push yourself harder, and that's what happened to me. And when you're like the best among everyone else, then it's pretty hard because then you feel like you're good enough. You know everything. You're the best. And for me, that was like the big driver to being that underdog among my peers. And being that guy that doesn't understand anything, to actually go out there and prove them that I can actually do the work.
Z, there's something you said that kind of stopped me in my tracks earlier, and I didn't stop you. I'm getting tired of interjecting and interrupting you. I just don't want to lose my thought. But you said something earlier when you said you were talking about finance. And you said, well, you're going around asking people which one was going to be tough, and they were saying finance. And then you make the idea of, okay, if that's going to be the toughest one, I'm going to go after that one. And for me, it just fired things off in my brain because in the world of sports, that's acceptable, right? That's totally acceptable. Like if you're ranked number 1 in the state and I'm not ranked, I want to guard you. Like you got to show me, right? But I think it's crazy how student athletes a lot of times, they don't take that same mentality and put it in the classroom. It's like, I'm up for a challenge. It just kills me when I hear people talking about, because you hear about legendary stories about Kobe, you hear about legendary stories about LeBron and Michael Jordan, and you get so gassed up on this idea of, oh, I'm so competitive. Like, are you competitive? Or are you only competitive on the things that you think you're supposed to be competitive at? Because if you're competitive, then it shouldn't just be just basketball.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're competitive, then maybe you should be a little bit more competitive about this D that you have in this classroom that you're just laying down. Like, you're not even going to even. So I just think that's powerful, man, for you to say, I'm going to ask them, basically what you said, is I'm asking who's the number 1 player in here? That's the person I'm guarding in front of everybody else. That's big, man. Where you feel like you got that from? Where'd that come from? Is that like how you were raised? Where'd that come from?
Well, my previous coach from Lithuania, I think that's why it's very important to have mentors that actually support you and encourage you, because my coach, even though I was not like the best or whatever, but he always referred to me as being the one. He was like, you're going to go there and you're going to be successful. You're going to go to the United States and you're going to be the best player in your team. You're going to be the best student over there. So he kind of instilled that idea into me that wherever I'm going, I have to like be the best or among the best. So I would always, whenever I go to a new kind of area, I always find out whoever is like the leading, whoever are the best over there. And then you want to become friends with them, you want to compete with them, and that's how my coach basically raised me, let's put it that way.
You had a natural knack for math, would you say?
No, I hated math, to be honest.
Oh, wow.
My mom have a degree in math, so she has a master's in mathematics. And she always told me that I'm kind of embarrassment to her because I'm bad at math. And I was bad at math because I chose to be bad at math. I actually consciously didn't want to study for math and kind of resented to her.
Mm-hmm.
So, but at the end of the day, I realized the importance of it. So it's all about what is important, what you need to do, about motivation. When you're properly motivated, you can learn whatever. So I don't think there are people who are like good at math or bad at math. Maybe there are, but I think majority of us actually just need to put our minds in the right place and actually say that, hey, we're going to do it, and they just do it.
You weren't always good at making layups until you actually practiced making layups.
Exactly.
When you first got in there, you were shooting the ball and lay it up instead of laying it up. So you don't, I'm just asking, because now I'm asking questions about myself. This ain't even about y'all now, this is me now. So my question, so do you subscribe to the whole mindset of follow your passion and all that, or are you saying that, you see an opportunity, you jump on it? Because I asked that question. I asked that question because, and I talked about this on my channel before, and I've talked to you about this. Both of my parents passed away of cancer. before I graduated college. When I got in, my redshirt year, I was good. My freshman year, my dad passed away, and then a year or so later, my mother passed away of cancer. So when I got back in, I dropped out of college for 2 years, and then I got back in after that happened. And I told myself I was going to pick the major that's going to make us the most money. So I chose physical therapy. Then I found out that when you put traveling on front of anything, dealing with medical, you make bank. So 6 figures, easy. And man, I got in that class. I couldn't see my hand before my face, man. Like I never forget zoology. That first class, zoology, I made an F in. The next semester, there are freshmen in this doggone class. The next semester who just saw the information for the first time, and this is my second time seeing it. I take the very next semester. These guys and girls are making A's, and I made a D. It was the proudest D I've ever made in my life. So my question to you, I say all that to say this. It sounds like if you were in that situation, you would have stuck it out and end up graduating top of your class. But for me, I just said, you know what? It's not something I was passionate about. I got into it for the wrong reasons. What do you say about that? You say you don't have a knack for math, but for whatever reason, you had a grit about yourself that you say you're competitive enough that you stuck it out.
Yeah, so I don't believe in the passion thing. I never had a passion for math, specifically. I never had a passion for anything that I'm doing right now. You kind of develop that passion as you learn more, as you become better. I had a passion of being the best, basically. That's the really good feeling that I felt when I was playing basketball. I made my national team. And what it does to you, basically, you get addicted to that fact that people are always praising you, that people are looking up to you. So for me, being that guy that everyone's like, oh, he's dumb, it was not the right place for me. So I never had a passion for these things. Right now I do, because I've been doing that for 3 years. So right now I kind of developed that passion, but at first I definitely didn't have the passion. So obviously money, like you mentioned, it's a big driver, yeah. So a lot of people, even right now, get people coming to me and asking, hey, like how much do you expect to make, or how much, if I'm gonna do the CFA, for example, how much I'm gonna be making, or there's another certification called CFP, so it's a financial planner. So they're asking how much I'm gonna be making if I'm gonna go that route. So money is also a big driver, but whenever you make that decision, I don't think it's going to be driven by passion, especially if you haven't done any of that work before. So at that point, for me personally, it was just a motivation to be as best as I can possibly be, and even more than that, just to beat the other guy. Like if he's the best, I'm after him.
I'm an international student. I want to go to the States. Okay, give me a list of things that you feel like you need to have in order to even get here. Like as far as the stomach to be able to do it. You know what I mean? Because there's some things that they're going to encounter once they get over here that they didn't think about until they got over here. So what are going to be some things that you feel like, helped you be able to stick and not just wash out and go home after the first semester? And some things they probably need to add to their tool belt as well.
Well, that's a tough question. Maybe just have the purpose, I guess. Don't do something rash. So I didn't come to the United States just to check it out, how it is in the United States. I came here to get a degree. That's my goal. Get a degree and be a basketball player, learn. So for me, it was, I never had like thoughts of quitting or going back home, because I didn't come here to quit. I came here to get my degree. So I knew that I'm going to stay here the whole time, regardless how hard it was. So I think it's just a mindset. A lot of people, maybe if they're trying it out, maybe for them, then it's like, oh, I didn't like it, I'm going to go home.
Yeah.
But for me, it was never about trying it out. For me, it was like, hey, I'm going to come here and I'm going to get my degree, and I want to be a good basketball player. I want to be seen. I want to be develop certain skills and then get back to Europe and apply them over there.
I hate to sound like an old man, so I don't even say this on the channel. Because I know there's a lot of other people that are going to say this. They're going to say that when they give advice to student athletes, they always say, well, when you go there, worry about your sport and worry about school, and that's it. And I don't think that's healthy. I think that you should socialize. I think that nothing. Socializing only is a problem if it serves as an obstacle. If it serves as an obstacle from you getting to what you actually came there to get. All right, so it's graduation. Because a lot of times people will have this mentality of I'm not going to go to parties because I can't graduate. I know a lot of people that graduate and go to parties. I wasn't the person. To do that. So I'm asking you this question because I'm a person that didn't drink or smoke at all, but I want to give advice for people that do. Some people. It's funny I say that because you haven't been watching the documentary with The Last Dance and whatnot, but man, Mike talks about having teammates. I don't know if you heard about this, but he said he had teammates that during halftime of games they were smoking and drinking in the locker room. Smoking and drinking, and this is not a campaign for you to go smoke and drink. That's not what this is. But for some of you I know right now are looking at this like, man, when I go to college, I'm trying to get messed up. Like I'm trying to go and get turned. Like I get that. And for those individuals, I want to get your advice of how maybe you can do that and still take care of what you need to get taken care of, because networking and all that stuff is in play as well. So can you talk a little bit about that, as far as everybody's not going to be straight edge, straight laced as far as class and practice, and that's it. And that's okay. That's okay. That doesn't mean you're a bad person. Just because you go drink, have some alcohol, if you're of age, that doesn't mean you're a bad person. But Z, talk to us about how we can balance that and still come out on top.
Well, I know many people that did that actually while I was playing, and they're way better players than I was. So it's not that I don't think that it's a bad thing. Actually, if I could do it again, probably I would have done more of that, because like you mentioned, the very big benefit that comes out of it is connections, making friends. And a lot of people that I know right now, they're graduating and they're tight with those friends, and they're able to help each other to move on with their lives, get jobs and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So it is a pretty important aspect that I missed out, and I regret for that. But there, like you mentioned also, there's got to be a balance. Like, don't expect to come here and just party all the time. As long as you can take care of your stuff effectively, then I don't see a big issue with that. But also, understand the fact that everything that you're doing out there is people are watching. Woo! And they're gonna talk about it, and it's gonna get to people that you don't want to get. Mm-hmm. So it's really important to make sure that you're doing that with the right people, and make sure that even if you're drinking, you're not getting to that level where you're just on everyone's cameras, on everyone's Snapchats, doing some crazy stuff, smoking in front of those cameras, because that information is definitely going to get to the people that you don't want it to get to.
And you stick out like a sore thumb. You being from Lithuania and on the basketball team, you've been on the basketball team, number one, you're already going to be in front of people's eyes. And now you have the audacity to have an accent from Lithuania. Yeah, we don't know. Z was there. We know Z. If we don't know anybody, we know Z was there. Just kind of, and that takes a level of maturity, right? For you to be able to say, this is a hindrance to me, and I need to remove myself. That comes with maturity, and a lot of people don't have that. Many people don't have that at 18, 19, 20 years old. They're too busy trying to do what everybody else is doing. Like, say for instance, I'm a person. How do you study, Z? Like, what? Short answer. How do you study? Like, what's the best way of you getting out of a study session? Are you more like oratory? Are you more like write it down? Are you like flashcards?
I like videos.
Videos. See, for me, I've been in college settings where people want to have these study parties. Dude, I can't have a study party. There's no alcohol. There's no music. Sometimes there is music, but essentially there's like 5 or 6 people, and there's more talking about frivolous things than it actually is studying. I'm the type of person that I can't read and hear my heartbeat at the same time. Like, I gotta have total silence, okay, when I read. I'm just that bad. I've always been like that. But that's me coming of age and realizing that that's who I am. That's what I bring to the table. I can't do what everybody else is doing and studying like everyone else is doing. You saw the difference between my my version of a good student and Z's version of a good student. My version of a good student is passing. His version of a good student is 3.98. That's a huge contrast, right? So the same thing as far as alcohol as well. Like you got to figure out what that path is for you. I was introduced to alcohol in my family from some people that didn't handle alcohol well. So I knew at an early age that that's not going to be me. That's not going to be me. I'm not messing with that at all. But if you are going to mess with alcohol in your age, again, none of that stuff is a problem unless it's going to serve as an obstacle from you getting to what you want to get, and that is graduation. That is being the best basketball player you can be. That's it. Because, we've seen college students that, are trying to live that college experience, though they say, which is individualized. That's a figment of people's imagination of the college experience. You make your own college experience. But we've seen some people on basketball teams and on other teams that wanted to live that life of what they saw portrayed on the movies, and they didn't last a semester. They didn't last a year. So you definitely should keep that in mind as well. Well, I think I want to wrap this up. I'm going to give you the last word, but I want to wrap this up. But before I do, just to make sure that I hit this home, because I know this means a lot to the international viewership that we have on this channel, and that is basically we're going to go back on what you said earlier, like a recap of what you said earlier is, if I'm an international student, I want to play in the States, what should I be focusing on in order to make that a reality?
One of the main things is connections. Obviously, you're not gonna get here if you do not have connections. So you need someone to hook you up with someone in United States. So connections is the big thing. The other thing, your reputation. Again, you need people that know you and they can vouch for your character. And then another thing is practice. Skill is still one of the main things that's gonna get you anywhere. So you still need to be a good basketball player in order to do that. And I was lucky enough to play in my national team, so I was kind of visible, and a lot of people were able to see how I'm playing. But for those who didn't make, let's say, the national team, it's still a big thing. Like, you need to practice and maybe record the practice, maybe make yourself visible, make yourself available to opportunities to talk, communicate through whatever channels. But yeah, these would be the most important things.
Okay. See, I just want to thank you for carving out time and giving us some information as far as how we can be an international student and get the most out of being a student athlete, how to maximize our time on a college campus, how to have that competitive drive that we have in the game of basketball, and also that in the classroom. We talked about you majoring in finance, against some of your peers' advice, you went ahead and majored in it. How to deal with networking, how to deal with being disciplined, how to deal with language barriers, and still being able to have the grit and the tenacity to actually get things done. I feel like that's a lot of value at all in one setting that I wasn't going to be able to provide by myself, but I have someone that was able to shed some light on this whole thing. I hope it brought you some value. But I'm going to go ahead and step aside and let you have the last word, and then we'll go ahead and close this thing out.
Love to leave you with the quote from Warren Buffett, and this is my favorite quote by far. And he basically says that it takes 20 years to build a reputation, and it takes 5 minutes to ruin it. And if you think about it deeply and carefully, you'll do things differently. But whatever you do, make sure you graduate at top of your class. Hoop Laude.
Laude.